Hey, Vlad here from devinside.com. Welcome to another video. It's been a long time since I recorded a video for absolute beginners, so let's get right to it. All right, a couple of years ago, I actually made a cool project called the 7-segment display clock, and it's actually kind of cool. It's on GitHub. Many people liked it. It was it was very beginner friendly. There were no dependencies. It has some cool like ASCII thing. Actually, let's go and find it. I wasn't planning on doing it right now, but let's do this. I'm actually using Windows with virtual workspaces, so I can do like this, and I can go back like this to WSL. So actually, let's go over here, and I actually have Fira Code open here. I'm going to explain to you in just a second why. So if you go to github.com/dev inside you, and we search for something like, how do I search? Seven. All right, then we're going to find this repository. And I remember I included a cool GIF over here. So this is kind of what we did, right? So we kind of used like regular characters. We didn't even use some fancy like box drawing characters to display the time. It was actually super fun. Today we're going to do something very similar. So Fira Code, which is a very popular font with ligatures, recently released a cool feature. It released a cool rendering. It's not actually a ligature. It's just a cool rendering for progress bars. So if we go down over here, we're going to see something like this, okay? And I kind of got excited. I initially thought that it was simply use ligatures. Whenever you use like these characters, it will actually render them like this. But no, this is something that they plan actually for an upcoming release. As of right now, you actually need to use these specific characters, right? So these are the unique characters, Unicode characters. So this one is, EE 0 and through 5, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these ones are 6 through, 11, okay? So 9, 10, 11. Okay, so we're simply going to play with these ones, and what we're going to build today by the end of this video is we're going to have something like this. Okay, so we're going to have multiple progress bar growing, with a different width, different colors, and also we're going to have like this progress circle over here. Okay, so once it finishes, the problem was one of these, was the circle is you kind of never know when it's going to finish. So I simply render it like 8 times because there are like by default like 8 ANSI colors. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up a project from scratch, and by the end of the video I'm also going to commit it to GitHub so that you can have all this code. We're going to use Scala 3. This is mostly a Scala channel if you're not aware. So I'm going to switch to my other WSL distribution. I'm currently in my dev folder, which is currently empty, so I'm going to use one of my Jira templates. We're going to use Scala 3 today. We're also going to learn a bit about some relatively hidden Scala 3 features. I'm going to call it progress, press enter, 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 and I'm going to switch into progress, and I'm going to open it with Visual Studio Code. Again, I'm using WSL2, so I'm actually launching like a VS Code server inside of WSL, and my VS Code that is inside of Windows actually is currently connecting to it. I have an extension called Metals, which is a language server. And by the way, I have a full-blown crash course for Scala. If you're not a Scala developer, I'm actually going to import the build and wait a little bit. I'm going to cut it out from the video. This is essentially a build server so that we have like syntax highlighting, errors, and we can go jump to things and so on and so on. Okay, so this is just a main method for Scala 3. It recently received a fancy annotation over here that you can just have like a top level method and it will run the main method for you. Okay, so VS Code actually has a built-in terminal. I'm actually going to wait a couple of seconds until this thing finishes. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it actually has a built-in terminal. However, sometimes it doesn't actually render things well. We're actually going to start out with this one. So I'm going to start SBT, which is a build tool for Scala. Okay, and once it starts, I'm going to start running my code. I'm actually going to just skip the banner, and I'm going to run the code so that we can see our hello world. There you go. There it is. Okay, let's save the file over here. Everything's file. Let's also cascade the compilation for the entire project, just in case. There we go. Okay, so now we're all set up, so I can do some like tilde-r. Okay, so let me show you what I actually meant. Like sometimes, so if you start using these characters, okay, so for example, instead of this, we're actually going to use the character. And the way you enter these Unicode characters, and by the way, I have a video about character encoding. You might want to check it out. Like these special characters, you actually need to do like /u, and then you type in their code. For example, EE 0, 1, no, 0, 0 was the first one. Okay, so as you can see, it's like this fancy character. It was this one, EE 0, 0. Okay, so let's do the other ones real quick. So we're gonna do like this a couple of times. probably like this. Okay, so find a 0, this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and these are all of these characters. However, if you put them together, like sometimes like this particular terminal doesn't render them nicely. There's like a little bit of space, and so we might need to switch to another terminal. But as a reminder, it's actually not a ligature, so it should work in a terminal which doesn't even have ligatures. For example, right now I'm using Electricity. Okay, so let's see if it actually works out. Let's actually go over here. Let's create a little bit less space over here, like this. Okay, so let's go and do something like this, and now over here we're going to do something like print line. Okay, so now I'm going to use actually strings with a single character. Okay, so this is going to be a string which is going to have this first opening character. Okay, and I'm doing this just so that I can concatenate the strings. Okay, so I'm going to take this middle character like this. Okay, and I'm going to do times 8. I want to have this character like times 8, and the multiplication symbol has a higher precedence than plus, so it's going to work out. So I actually don't need, you know, these braces like this. Okay, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let's go here, delete this one, go to the end of the line, delete this one. Okay, and I'm going to add, you know, the closing one, which is going to be EE02, and I'm going to close this thing. Okay, and let's see how it's going to render it. I was going to say that it's a bad example because it's not filled out, so you're not going to see the empty spaces, but we already don't see the empty spaces, which is good, which means that we can stay in this terminal. It just says sometimes in VS Code, even like right now, at some point, it might stop working. Okay, just know that this is not your fault. Okay, so let's actually duplicate this line and duplicate it again. So over here, we're going to have an example of a progress bar that is filled out like only like up to the half. Okay, so we're going to do 4 over here, and we're going to end this with a 2. However, over here, we're going to mark this, okay, like this, and just paste it again, not here, over here. Okay, so over here, like this one is going to be the full one, which is going to be the 4, and this one is going to be the empty one, which is going to be the 1. Okay, and I want to make it like the same length, so this is going to be the 4 and this is going to be the 4. Okay, so let's look at the middle one. Okay, so it's like half. Okay, and now this one is going to be full. Okay, so it's going to start with the 3. It's going to have a 4 over here, and it's going to be full. And in the end, it's also going to be a full one like this. Okay, so you have 3 progress bar over here. Very beautiful. Now, it's kind of annoying to work with these codes like this, so you can actually copy paste these things. Okay, so you can like copy this one and I'll go over here and then paste it over here, for example, right? And it's going to work out just fine. This is actually the wrong character, right? So actually, let's go back. Okay, like the first one was this one, so I'm going to copy it. Okay, and I'm going to change inside this one, paste it. Okay, so this is exactly the same character, which is why it's also being printed out exactly the same. Now I'm actually going to go and copy it from my script. Okay, so that we don't have to wait through this thing. So I'm just gonna do it like this. Okay, and indent them a little bit to the right, like this, and like that, like that. Okay, so it's basically exactly the same thing. It's just that I pasted the actual values instead of the codes, and now it's kind of easier to read. Okay, so you kind of have like this thing, and then you have like this thing 8 times, and then you have the closing one. And for this one, you're gonna have like the half of these ones, like 4 of them, and half of these ones. It's much easier to read. Okay, so the first time you enter them, after this you can start copy pasting them. So what we're gonna do is we're going to create a file, and I'm actually going to delete like everything inside. Okay, so that we just have, you know, we're gonna constantly keep coming back to print line hello world like this. Okay, right? So we're going to create a file and we're going to call it simple progress bar, and a bit later we're going to create a normal progress bar, which is going to be very flexible. It will be able to grow. Okay, I'm not talking about the fulfillment of the progress bar, I'm talking about its length. Okay, so this one is going to be fixed to 10 characters. Okay, so I'm gonna go like this and like this again, and it's going to be a package. Okay, so inside of it we're going to have an object simple progress bar like this, and I'm actually going to copy paste some stuff because like these things are kind of annoying to type. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I'm gonna go over here and paste them like this. All right, so I'm gonna go like this and like that. Okay, so this is going to be a simple object. Scala 3 has index-based, not index-based, infix-based scoping, so you don't need the curly braces as you used to in Scala 2. Okay, so this thing will actually be written for me to this to these columns. Okay, so inside of it we have a bunch of vals, and in Scala you cannot name the variables that start with a number. Therefore, I'm using these back quotes, and this will allow me to name my variables however I want. I can even have like spaces in there if I want. This will compile. Okay, so I'm using this to have like this 0%, 10%, up to 100%. And inside of it, we have a string, and this one is just like a hard-coded pasted string. Okay, so I just like literally like, manually like pasted like all of these bars. Okay, so what this means is that we can now go to our main, and we can, for example, do something like simple progress bar. We can use auto-completion, and over here we also have auto-completion. So for example, something like this. Okay, and now we can copy it again. So just do like something like a 5 over here, like 100 over here, and then you have these like pre-made progress bars. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a function to a simple progress bar that we're going to be able to give it a double, because we can have some like 56.43% or something, right? And then it will basically reduce this this double. It will lose some precision. It will reduce this double to an integer somehow to figure out whether it's like 0%, 10%, 20%, and so on. Okay. Before we're going to do this, I'm actually going to show you something small over here. So there is a function on doubles called round, and you might be interested in using it. I don't recommend it for this case, and I'm going to show you why, right? So this is basically like the common case rounding, the one that you know from high school. Okay, so like this. Okay, so basically the first two are going to be reduced to a 1, and the other 3 are going to be reduced to 2. However, for progress bars, I actually don't recommend this. And by the way, the type of this, so this was a double, and the type of round is actually going to be long. If we do just 2int, actually, let me actually do this like that, and I'm actually going to yank this and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, so over here now, wherever I'm saying round, I'm actually going to say 2int. Okay, so this is like the typical thing that you kind of learn in the beginning of your programming journey, is that it will simply, remove, cut out whatever like is after the comma. Okay, so as you can see, the results are very, very different. So it cuts out everything except for the actual 2. The actual 2, well, it will stay at 2. Okay, so for progress bar, I believe that this one is going to be more valuable for us. Okay, so let's actually delete this and this as well. Let's return to our print line hello world, so that we can kind of see something. Let me remove this thing. Okay, so we're going to go back to our simple progress bar, and we're going to say that this is going to be actually a function that accepts a double and produces a string. Okay, which means that we're forced to to override def apply, which is going to receive the percentage, right, which is going to be a double, and it's going to produce a string. Okay, and the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to normalize this percentage, right? So it's going to do percentage to int like this. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we're basically going to say, so if we're below 10, then we're going to do a 0, and then we're going to have a bunch of other cases, and then the last case is going to be basically if we're it's like the default case is going to be above 100, so it's going to be 100. So I'm actually going to copy paste this, because again, it's a bit annoying to type, because it's essentially a table. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, I'm going to paste it like this. All right, let's go and save this. And what does it say? Value class may not be. Okay, so over here, I forgot actually, the arrow. So it should be an arrow like this. Okay, cool. So essentially we're saying, so if this normalized percentage, if it's below 10, then, well, simply render the 0%, which is like this one. Okay, let's actually create a little bit more space. Okay, if it's below 20, then it's still 10, right? Even if it's 19, it is going to render as 10%. Okay, and the same thing for like all of the others. And then at the very, very end, we're going to have else is 100%, which means that if we give it a negative number, it's going to render it as a 0 progress bar. If we give it a number that is high, that is 100 or higher, it's simply going to say 100%. Okay, so you never should trust the user input. So you should always have control over these boundaries. And by the way, this is another Scala 3 thing, because we don't have the curly braces. It's all indentation based. Like all of this stuff belongs to the apply function. Okay, so the last expression of the function, which is this big table, this one big if, is being returned. Okay, well, yeah, so the result of the if is actually are like these strings. Okay, so at the end of every if clause, we have a string, right? So all of these are strings. And by the way, we should probably denote their return types. It's a convention to do this. Okay, so let's go like this, and let's do like that. Okay, so there we go. So we should always, like, whenever you have like a public things, always denote their type. Okay, so we can actually go and play with it. So for example, we can go over here and we can do a simple progress bar. Okay, now it's a function, so we can just give it something. For example, we can do 40. Okay, and after it, we're gonna have a space. okay? And after it, we're gonna have another 40, okay? So that you can kind of see, okay, like this is how 40 looks like, okay? So now if we go over here and I'm gonna do 5 of them, okay? So now let's do, go like this and do like 49.9, find 40, do the same thing. That's not what I thought would happen. Let's do 49.9. Okay, and now over here we're going to do 50, and over here we're going to do 50.1, and over here we're going to do 60, and there we go. Okay, so this is how they look like. 40, 49.9 is still not 50, therefore it's like less than 50. Then we have 50, 50.1 is still 50, and we have a 60 over here. And just to show you like, what will change if we go back to round over here, rounding means that 49.9 is basically a 50, okay? And I don't think they're 49.9 in terms of progress bars, should be a 50, okay? So let's actually go to int and sort of like just cut it off. Cool, so now that we have that, let's actually see all of them. So we're just gonna go over here and we're gonna do, so let's have a full comprehension, which in Scala 3 looks very beautiful. So we're going to generate a percentage based on a range that goes from 0 to 100. This is an inclusive range, okay? And we're gonna do like every step is going to be by 10, okay? So we're gonna have like 0, 10, 20, 30, and so on, okay? So we're gonna do print line. Okay, so in Scala 2, we actually don't have this do, okay? But we can, in Scala 3, we can actually have this do print line. So we're going to print line a simple progress bar. It's a function, okay? So we're going to give it the percentage that we're generating in the beginning of the line, okay? Over here, right? This one, okay? So we're going to give it the percentage, and then at the very end over here, we're going to add space, and we're going to do plus percentage. And there we go. We should see 10 progress bars, and this is exactly how they look like from 0 to 100. Awesome. We can also do the same thing without this step, okay? So we're just gonna remove like these guys like this. So let's go and see, and there you go. Okay, so basically 90 looks like a 90, and everything like between 90 and 100 looks like this, and only when it's at 100 it looks like this. Okay, so now we generate 100 progress bars, and again, like stuff like in the middle was kind of like reduced to, like for example 23, it's still looks exactly the same as 20. By the way, one thing about these ranges is that you can actually also generate them in reverse, right? So for example, you can go from 100 to 0 by -10. Okay, so they will be rendered now in reverse, okay? Or, you don't need to by -10, so you can just do like by -1. In fact, by -1 should probably be the default. I'm not sure. Let's actually check like this, okay? And yeah, okay, so see, it's not the default, so you have to say by -1, okay, like this. In any case, let's go back to our print line hello world like this. There we go. In fact, one thing that I wanted to show you is that our progress bars, they're always only 10 characters long. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to abandon the simple progress bar, and we're going to create the real progress bar, and it will be allowed to receive a factor, and so it will be allowed to grow, okay? So 50% is still going to look like 50%, but the entire bar is going to be, for example, twice as long or 3 times as long, okay? So let's actually go down over here. Let's go to simple progress bar, and let's actually copy paste the entire file over here. Let's copy paste the entire file. We're going to call this one progress bar like this. And now over here, we're going to say progress bar like this. Okay, so it's going to be very, very similar, like this maybe. Okay, so what it's going to have is basically that this is going to be a final class now. Okay, progress bar. It's going to have a private constructor, and in the constructor we're going to give it a factor, which is going to be an integer. Okay, and this entire thing is still going to extend a function from double to string. Okay, so now this whole thing is a class. One thing that you need to know about constructors is that they're a little bit more constrained than a regular function. So it's kind of like a pattern to also have a companion object, right? So we're going to have it, we're going to call it progress bar, and inside of it, we're going to have sort of like a factoring method. Well, not sort of, it actually is a factor method, okay? So we're going to give it a factor. By default, it's going to be 1, and it's going to produce a progress bar, okay? So what it will do is it will do a new progress bar of factor. Okay, like this. And by the way, in Scala 3, you can actually leave out the new, so you can actually just do a progress bar factor. okay, which is great. And usually it's a convention to put this guy down. Okay, so over here, okay, at the bottom of the file. Now the first thing that we should do always is never trust the user input. So we're going to normalize the factor. So we're going to go to the bottom of the file. It's sort of a convention to put like variables at the top, but I sort of prefer to put private things at the very bottom. So we're going to make it private. I'm going to call it lazy. Okay, it's going to be a val, and we're going to call it f, right? So it's going to be a factor. And it's going to be a factor, and we're going to make sure that it's going to be inside of a range from 1 to 10, right? So this is an inclusive range. Okay, now inside is not a function on integers. So we're going to use a fancy features of Scala 3 called extension. Okay, so we're going to create an extension for the integer, right? We're going to call it int so that we can refer to it in the scope. And we're going to create like a really private def, inside of this function. And it's going to receive a range, and it's going to produce the int like this. Okay, so it's going to be inside. Okay, and we're going to do range start, and we're going to do range dot end. Okay, so which inside are we calling here? It doesn't exist. Well, it's going to be another private def inside like this, and it's going to have from int, and it's going to have to int, and it's going to produce an int. Okay, in fact, we're going to make a favor. We're going to do a favor to our users, is we're going to actually allow them to mix these up, right? So 1 to 10 is going to be the same as passing 10 to 1, okay? So the from, we're going to call it f, is going to be from min 2, right? So min is a function that will pick the smallest one of them. So if you pass it 10 and 1, f is going to be 1, okay? And 2, right? So t is going to be from max 2, okay? So basically like the same thing, okay, right? But it's going to pick the latest one, right? So if you give it like 1 and 10, it's going to keep 10. If you give it 10 and 1, it's going to keep 10, okay? So we have from and 2, okay? And now what we need to do is we need to take self, right? Remember, this is the extension for the, right? So the self is going to be the factor, right? So self is going to be the factor, and then we're going to do the same trick, right? So we're going to say max f, okay? And then we're also going to do min t. Okay, so this is basically normalized. So whatever we pass in, it will always be between 1 and 10. All right, so now we need to figure out how to grow the entire progress bar. And growing the middle portion is kind of easy, okay? So we're going to have 3 pairs of variables, okay? So the first pair is going to be for the middle, right? So we're going to have middle empty and middle full, okay? So we're going to have private lazy val middle empty, okay? It's going to be this fancy character like over here, right? So we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it over here. Hold on, let me actually copy it like this, and paste it over here, okay? Okay, so this is the, no, actually this one is the full one, okay? So this is going to be in the middle full, okay? So we're just going to take this and multiply it with a factor, okay? And the empty one is going to be, okay, so I need to grab one of the empty ones, like for example, this one. And I'm gonna do this like this, okay? So this is the empty one times the factor. This is the full one times the factor. Now, growing the sides, sort of like the corners, is a little bit more tricky, but it's not too complicated either, okay? So basically, we'll grow the middle, and then we'll like drop the first character and replace it with, depending on which character we need, okay? So once I actually do this, this will actually be more clear. Kind of explaining this is a bit hard, okay? So this one is going to be left empty. Okay, well, left empty is going to be the same thing as the middle empty, right? But we're going to drop the first character, okay? Because we need to make sure that this is the corner, right? The left corner, the left empty corner, which is this one, okay? So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to do like this, and like that, and like that, and like that, okay? Right? So basically, we're dropping one character from the left, so we're generating the middle based on the factor, dropping one character from the left, and sort of like replacing it with this one. Okay, so the full one is going to be the same one. So left full, we just need to copy the full one like this. Okay, but the rest is going to stay the same. Okay, so we have left empty, left full. Now the ones on the right are going to be mirrored. Okay, so we're gonna paste them over here. Okay, so this is going to be right. Same thing over here, right? So right empty, right full. Okay, so this time we're actually going to drop from the right. Okay, going to drop from the right. Okay, and well, basically we're going to remove this because we need to like append things on the right. And by the way, this one should be full, and this one should also be full. Okay, full should always use the full one. Okay, so we're dropping from the right, and now we're going to add something. Same thing over here. So over here we need the empty right, which is one of these ones. Okay, so we're gonna grab it over here, gonna go like this, and this one is a full right. Okay, so like this and like that. Okay, so now we have all of the cases. So now I just need to replace this, without like hard coding these strings. I'm going to use like these variables. Okay, and I'm going to copy paste this because it's so annoying to type it out. So I'm gonna copy it from a script, and I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna paste it. Okay, so there we go, like this. Let me indent it properly real quick. Okay, and by the way, in my script it was also incorrect. We should probably go over here and do string like that. Okay, so we should also have a space over here, right? Okay, change space. Okay, like this, and change space s like this. Okay, so basically, essentially, what this is doing is it uses string interpolation, okay, to construct a string. Okay, we're starting with like left empty, okay, left empty. Then we're taking the middle full, but we're not generating it, right? We're doing like times 0 because like this one, like 0 is going to be completely 0, okay? Then we're generating 8 of zeros, right? Again, everything was a factor, like all of these using a factor. And then we're generating a right empty, okay? And we're gonna go through all of them like this, okay? So for example, in the middle, we're gonna have like left full, then we're gonna have like 5 fulls, but like 3 empties, and then the right one is going to be empty, okay? And the last one is going to be left full, ends with right full. We're gonna have full middle 8 times, empty middle 0 times, okay? So now we're gonna have this thing, and then we can go and play around with it, okay? So what we're gonna do over here is we're gonna have a for comprehension where we're generating the factor, okay, 1 to 10, and we're gonna do print line of not a simple progress bar. Like this time we're going to take the real progress bar, and we're gonna make a factor, okay? And remember, make factor, right? This produces a progress bar, and a progress bar is a function, okay? So we can give it how much we want, right? So for example, this one is going to be a 0, okay? So let's go like this. So as you can see, we have 10 progress bars with different factors, right? But they're all zeros. Okay, so let's go and do something like this and paste it over here like this, like that, and let's yank that and paste it over here and paste it over here and over here and over here. Okay, let's do like an empty line over here, here, and here. Okay, so now we have like 50 progress bars. Okay, so this one is going to be 10. This one is going to be 50. This one is going to be 90, and this one is going to be 100. Like this, okay? So there we go. We have 10 empty progress bars, 10 progress bars with 10%, 10 progress bars with 50%, 10 progress bars with 90%, and 10 progress bars with 100%. So we kind of want to get close to this one. So we're going to start writing our first program.